as mentioned, I'm Tori Lincoln. I'm the Senior Director of Publisher Sales within Yahoo Publisher Services at Yahoo. So my team's remit is to bring new publishers on board to use Yahoo's advertising solutions, primarily our Gemini native product and our Bright Roll Video. So today I'm going to talk about native and some of the success that Yahoo's had and some of the interesting observations that we've made in the past years in regard to native advertising. But before I do that, I want to just kind of give a little bit of a backstory on Yahoo and native. So Yahoo developed our Gemini native product about 3 years ago. And just for clarification, I know there's different flavors of native, but our native as we see it is essentially an ad from an advertiser, American Express, Ford, et cetera, that is adopting the look and feel of the property on which it's running, right? So usually fitting into a stream of content and adopting that look and feel, and obviously clearly labeled as advertising, but really offering an uninterrupted user flow. So Yahoo started developing this business, as I mentioned, about 3 years ago, and it was just developed for Yahoo itself, right? We are obviously a major publisher. So we started implementing native units throughout our websites, mobile websites, and our apps. And actually, as it relates to apps, about 2 years ago, we decided to actually take all of the traditional mobile advertising out of our apps. So if you go to the Yahoo News app, Yahoo Sports app, Yahoo Finance, you will only see native ads, right? So that's how committed to native advertising as a publisher we are. So about 1.5 years ago, kind of had a good news, bad news situation. The good news is that sales of native by our sales force were going really well. The bad news was we were sold out. We ran out of inventory on Yahoo, if you can imagine that. But actually, the other good news was that around that time, Yahoo acquired Flurry. I actually came via the Flurry acquisition, my second tour of duty at Yahoo. And Flurry, I'm not sure how many of you are very familiar, but Flurry has a mobile analytics and monetization platform. And Flurry has their mobile SDK in about 800,000 applications around the world. So they see about 1/3 of all mobile app activity in the entire world. So Yahoo took that opportunity and said, you know what, let's actually take our Gemini native solution and put it into the Flurry SDK and allow those 800,000 apps that already have our SDK to start monetizing with our Gemini native solution. So that's how this business really got going. And as you'll see, it's been a pretty tremendous success over the course of the past year or so. So we had actually dabbled in late 2014 with actually syndicating and pushing out Gemini native to some web and mobile web publishers, but the business really took off when we went mobile. And here you can see that at the beginning of 2015, we had essentially no business, right? We had very few, if any, publishers running Yahoo native in their properties. And by the end of the year, as we exited Q4, we had 350 billion native ad requests from third-party publishers. So a pretty big business that's grown very, very quickly within Yahoo. And, you know, I don't know, there's a little bit about Yahoo in the news. I don't know if anyone's heard anything, read anything. Not all positive, right? But this business has actually been a real shining star, right? It's grown to a very large part of Yahoo's overall business, and it's done that, as you can see, in an incredibly short period of time. And here's some more numbers to kind of speak to that. So right now, 50% of the native advertising sold by Yahoo actually runs off of Yahoo, right? Again, very different story from just 15 months ago when essentially none of it did. And we've got native ads in about 35,000 apps, several thousand websites, and we're seeing about 200 billion ad requests per month now. And what's also interesting is that as it speaks to apps in particular, this is a very international business. It's both a good thing and a bad thing, right? You want to be international, but at the same time, part of our problem is that we're not really able to fill all of these requests in, say, Indonesia. We are, in the US, able to fill everything. So by that, I mean we fill 99% of all partners' requests, literally. So a great business for us in the States and certain areas of Europe and certain areas of Asia, but there's actually a lot to be done in other markets. And one thing that we're about to do to address this is, right now, Gemini is a closed ecosystem, right? The only way to get there is through Yahoo. It's essentially a network. But as we speak, we're actually opening it up to RTB. So we're going to be integrating third-party DSPs into Yahoo's Bright Roll exchange and having them compete with our Gemini marketplace for our publishers' inventory. And that, again, is happening as we speak. And our hope is that not only will this kind of boost the ecosystem overall, create more demand in general, more demand and liquidity, but at the same time, fill some of this inventory overseas, right? So if anybody knows a DSP in Indonesia that's got a lot of native demand, please let me know. But no, so this is going to be a big step for us. What's also interesting is that having all of this off Yahoo inventory has allowed us to reach some new audiences in a better fashion, right? So Yahoo's audience is, as you might say, mature, right? It's not Snapchat, so it's a little bit older, but obviously advertisers want younger audiences. So having access to all this third-party inventory has allowed our advertisers to reach a younger audience in a very effective fashion. You can see that about plus 50% of the folks in the system are 18 to 34, so a very large portion. And right now it actually skews fairly heavily male, but that's changing rapidly as we continue to add new supply. The other thing that we found interesting is that advertisers have found some success, some good success in sort of unexpected places, right? So most advertising on Yahoo kind of hones to the traditional content model, right? If you're a financial services advertiser, you want to advertise on Yahoo Finance. But what we discovered through third-party publishing is that a lot of advertisers are finding success, again, in areas and in properties that they wouldn't think they would have naturally found success. So financial services is doing really well in weather, utilities, messaging. Autos found a lot of success in places like news and social. CPG, health and wellness, again, doing really well in places like utilities. So it's actually kind of broken us out of this more content-focused mold and allowed advertisers to find a lot of success off of Yahoo. So it's been a pretty tremendous past year and a half. It's been a really rapidly growing business, and we look forward to a lot of continued success for Yahoo and for our publishing partners. So I think now Paul's going to come up from Digiday and ask a few hard-hitting questions.
So you've shown the audience here great growth for you. What are some of the challenges that this industry is going to go through with native advertising?
Yeah. So right now, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I spoke to a little bit, is that it's not really very programmatic, right? So there really aren't many places outside of the two biggest players from a volume and revenue perspective, Facebook and Yahoo, who are both publishers, right? And how are we able to build up such a big business? Well, we're both publishers. We've got hundreds and literally thousands of salespeople out there selling. But when it comes to programmatic, the ecosystem is still pretty young, right? And so we don't see a lot of demand strength from programmatic partners. Now we know that's changing. People are lining up to make those changes, but right now it's still fairly nascent.
Okay, and with the growth you've seen, what were like, wow, I didn't expect that, the aha moment of, that wasn't foreseen?
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say one of the biggest and a very pleasant surprises was just how eager publishers were to take a very strong look at native, right? Because we've talked about the much maligned banner. It's been maligned since about the day it came out, and kind of the broken ad ecosystem. And so many publishers are willing, if you offer them a better alternative than the traditional banner, to try something else, right? And when you think about it, native is almost always and intended to be a better user experience, right? And at the same time, 98% of the time is providing significantly better revenue than banners. So it's a dual win-win for publishers. And again, we've been pretty pleasantly surprised by just how quickly they've stepped up to show interest. So it's good.
Great. Yeah. Well, Tori's here for the next 2 days, and he's here to answer your questions. So please ask. Thank you.
Thanks.